Hi, my name is Mary Trujano, and I am the director of the Andrews Center for Restorative Justice at Marquette Law School and the former chief judge of Milwaukee County. As a judge, I recognize that conflict is an inevitable part of life, but conflict leading to gun violence has become commonplace. Unfortunately, in recent years, the rates of gun violence have surged across the United States, and Milwaukee has not been spared. The devastating impact of gun violence is inescapable, and words cannot adequately capture the immeasurable ripple effect it has on individuals, families, and communities. At the Andrews Center, we believe that restorative justice offers a unique and profoundly human approach to addressing harm. Drawing on the wisdom of Native American and other indigenous peacemaking traditions, restorative justice circles have been used for centuries to reconnect and heal communities after experiencing harm. These circles ensure that all voices are heard, inviting generous listening, connection, shared power, and creative possibilities, elements that can lead and illuminate a path toward healing and harm repair. I firmly believe that how we acknowledge harm and trauma can lead to healing and safety for those who have been harmed, accountability and compassion for those who have caused harm, stronger relationships, and ultimately, safer communities. In the context of gun violence, restorative circles can disrupt cycles of violence, which is why we brought together members of the Milwaukee community who have been affected by gun violence to share their stories with you. We convened survivors, healers, first responders, violence interrupters, and peacemakers, individuals who care deeply about preventing the cycles of gun violence. Each participant courageously shared their personal experiences about how gun violence has impacted their lives. The circle also provided a safe space for crucial conversations about preventing the risk and reality of gun violence. Our hope is that those who watch this restorative justice healing circle will gain a deeper understanding of the harm caused by gun violence. Restorative justice relies on the willingness of the community to bear witness to the harm and its effects. Those who observe the conversation in this circle are already taking a step toward using restorative practices to address the harm caused by gun violence. We hope they feel inspired to become an even greater part of the solution. When justice processes bring communities together in collaboration, we are destined to create stronger, safer, and more resilient communities. Good evening, everybody. I want to thank you so much for being here. The Andrews Center for Restorative Justice and Marquette University Law School thanks you so much for taking the time to come. The centerpiece in front of us has some symbolism to it, and I'll talk about the candle first. So when you are sharing in circle or when you're trying to really exercise generous listening, if you feel yourself sort of fading away to something that's going on at work, try to focus on the centerpiece and the candle. The candle's light represents hope and potentially healing, and so that's important. This piece is a peace dove, and it's sort of a sacred piece, right? So when you're in circle and you're holding the talking piece, you're the only one that's speaking. We pass the talking piece from person to person. When you have the talking piece, it's your turn. It's nobody else's turn, right? The more you share with people in the circle, the deeper you share, that's when connection is made, right? And so feel free to share as deeply as you want, and this is a safe space. So each of you had been selected to become part of this circle because of your connection to firearms or gun violence. Describe a time or tell us a story about a time where you were affected or impacted by gun violence.
So I'm the middle child. I have two brothers and a sister, one older, and then my younger brother. Both of them are currently in jail right now. The most impactful one of the two will be my little brother, because he's been in and out of jail since he was 14. My brother just turned 20 this year, and he's currently doing a 45-year bid. it hurts me because my little brother was like my best friend. Like, one day it just all changed. I'm not really too sure what changed, what happened. And for quite some time, I kind of blamed myself. Like, where did I go wrong? Until I realized you can only control what happens from within, from what's inside. And as much as I know I tried to do the positive thing and keep him on the right path for life, I've never had him in any situations where I wouldn't want to be in myself. I have no criminal record at all. I've never seen the inside of a prison, never planned on it. As for me, that one just kind of hits home on a whole different level. Yeah, that's kind of all on that one. I'm sorry.
I can remember a case a few years ago. It was a gunshot wound to the chest. I can remember what the young man looked like, and we got up to the operating room and started surgery, opened his chest, and there was just so much bleeding. And it was me and one of my partners, and we were doing everything we could to save the kid. And I remember like a distinct moment of being like, oh my God, we can't save this kid. And in the end, like through an act of God or some sort of higher being, we got a clamp on what was bleeding, and we were able to stop it. And we were able to save him. And, you know, surgery ends, call ends, and I go back to my house on the North Shore, you know, and we're like having dinner with friends, and like, you know, people who don't live in that world, like I straddle these two worlds sometimes, which I'm blessed to be able to do, but trying to explain to people what we see at work and how that resonate is really hard. Because they don't get to have interactions with the people that we interact with. And trying to make it like, you know, you can't sit at a dinner party and like ruin dinner conversation, but you kind of want to, like you want to use the shock and awe to make people understand. And they don't, you know. And there are all sorts of reasons why that's the case. I ask people all the time, you want to come to work with me? Come to work. Not a problem. I don't think I've ever had anybody take me up on it. Because I think in reality, they don't want to see it. Because if they saw it, like they wouldn't be able to unsee it. And then they probably wouldn't be able to live with some of the decisions they make. And I'm lucky to be married to a man who has figured out how to give me space, right? Like he can tell when I walk in the house that like, you know, like, I'm not ready for small talk. And sometimes that lasts 10 minutes and sometimes it lasts 48 hours, you know, of me just being like, and it's better now. Like you know, as one of my partners says, we compartmentalize really well, like in our worlds, we have to. But I feel blessed to straddle these two worlds. I feel blessed to do the work that I do. And to have the opportunity to interact with people who are so different than me. I wish there were easier ways to bring those two worlds together. Because I think we'd probably be making some different decisions at all different levels.
Well, this is tough. Man, this is tough. Me, I'll just use myself. I was a part of another young man losing his life. Still to this day, can't sleep. Was never prideful of it, never glorified it. Another man lost his life because he didn't believe what I believed. And yeah, party to a crime, whatever the legal terminologies they want to put on top of it. I was a kid that was or a young man that was just looking to be led, just looking for the right person to guide me. Unfortunately, the young man lost his life. And I still said it to this day, it wasn't my intent, was to take the life. I'm not gonna be the one to run around and gloat about it like I tried to do this. It's still hard to unpack. We're talking almost like 30 years ago. Then I had my mom. I knew that I broke her heart with the decision that I made like 15 seconds. And my life changed. And like I never got to see her or ever hear her tell me that she was proud. I didn't get to this point till I took this class while I was inside. This group was Restorative Justice, and understood that I was somebody, and how can I live for the life that was lost and the life that's still here is to continue to do the work that I'm doing right now. If my mom was to see me right now, would she be proud? Hey, that's why, I do what I do now. Behind this smile is a lot of pain. And yeah.
A friend of mine who was 7 months pregnant, the father of her baby was mixed in with drugs, and I was trying to help him get off of that and get him help. And I got a phone call, and they said, you need to come here right away. I said, who is it? They said, this is police. And I said, where am I going? And I got to the street. It was all blocked off. And my friend that I've known since I was a little girl, who was 7 months pregnant, was sitting in the police car, and she said the baby's father, her soon-to-be husband, was shot and killed. He had borrowed apparently $20 and was killed over it. The bullet ricocheted off of his, the guy wanted his money back. The bullet ricocheted off of his shoulder, and it went through his chest, and his lungs filled up with blood. And he didn't know it at first because he had so much drugs in him. His adrenaline continued to go. And as he walked down the hall to go home, apparently he had been yelling, I want to go home to my baby. Didn't know he was dying. Eventually he dropped. Going with my friend, trying to keep her calm and understand, right now we have to get you to the hospital and the baby checked because your blood pressure is going up. And trying to balance what just happened with that, and then watching my friend go by in a body bag was pretty traumatic. That reality is just horrible. I had promised him, he promised he would get off of drugs, and I promised him that I would be there for him and his girlfriend with this baby. And he said, if something ever happens, you need to be at that delivery room, and you got to help bring my baby in the world. And I was. I cut the cord. And I brought her into the world with her mom. And I think that moment when you see somebody go by in a body bag is just, it's such a reality check how quickly your life can go in a second. And I am a survivor of domestic abuse and trafficking. I've seen a lot myself. I have an indent from when I was shot in my head here. It was not, it was, I would say, a light shot because it wasn't deadly like his was. But I've seen enough to know that when you're in such a traumatic situation like that, what you're doing, keeping people calm, going right to their heart instead of judging, they need love right now. Doesn't matter what the situation is, they need love right now and they need security. That's what I took away from it all. So that's my story for that part.
The first time I was really impacted by gun violence, I was 13, and me and a group of friends, we got into boxing gloves and had, like, you know, boxing matches or whatnot. And from that, it led to two of my friends being shot. And like I said, we were all friends, so that wasn't expecting nobody to get shot behind that, you know. Life kind of changed after that because I lost friends. Friends took, you know, some people took sides, and it just started a cycle where, in my mind, like, the gun violence kind of became normal because of what all happened after those two got shot. I got one more incident, which is occurred last year, where I lost my baby brother to gun violence. I feel like that was more so for me, it was a test to see where I was at in life, to see would I revert back to my old ways, but yeah, everything happened for a reason.
So I've been working at the trauma center for a long time, and I don't have one experience. I have night after night after night experiencing kids, young men, sometimes young women, come into the trauma center. We patch them up, we send them out. And I did that for probably a good 20 years, and always saying, like, we could do better. I feel like we could do better. So we put together this clinic in which we could treat the whole person. It has changed how I can take care of patients and what we can offer people, humans, and have that human connection. And when we started this program, very shortly after, I have this one guy I talk about that he makes me cry every time. I call him T. And when I met him, I was coming in the morning, I was doing my rounds, and I met him. He'd just come out of the operating room. He was shot in the chest and the belly. And so I was able to help him with all sorts of things. A safe place, help him with his pain, help him with his physical recovery, connect him with people in the community with 414 Life to make sure that he was going to be safe. And he was like the first guy when we started our program that I felt like we did better. And we always knew we could do better, but we actually did better. We did better for him.
I was a victim of gun violence at 16. After a basketball game, me and a couple of my friends, teammates actually, was sitting on the bus stop waiting on the bus. We all get on the bus. We all getting off on the same stop. We live by each other in the area. It was this guy on the bus. He had asked us to, like, shut up or something. Like, he said something under his breath, but me being the type of person I was back then, I stopped all happy thoughts. Every movement in me was to watch him because he was moving weird. Like, every time one of us to start laughing or joking, he'd make a remark and just keep side-eyeing people. And I'm the only one peeping what's going on in the situation. So I'm tapping people and letting them know, like, watch dude, bro. He on something, like, watch him. So we all get off the bus. He get off the bus with us. There's four of us. We walking up the street, and dude's still behind us. We laughing and just talking about the game. And then he had asked us a question. I'm like, why you following us? Actually, because you was on the bus. You said you was finna get off in a whole different stop, but you got off with us. So we leave him alone, we keep on walking, but he's still walking behind us. So we hitting corners and I keep, let's go this way, let's spin around the block, let's go this way. Like, and he's still behind us. Like he not leaving us alone. As soon as we get to the corner, I hear a loud siren, like a beep, and then I hear the sound of a gun, like clicking. I know the sound of a chamber. You know what I'm saying? Like I've been around so many situations, I know the sound of it. So I turn my head and he aiming at my friend. Like all I did was push him. And I didn't know whether to push him or grab him. I pushed him and he shot and the bullet went straight past my head and hit the stop sign. And my other friend, he took off. But I grabbed D'Angelo, who lives right next door to me, and I dragged him around the corner. So I run through an alley, I run through another alley. He ended up shooting D'Angelo in the leg or whatever when I put him around the corner. But we didn't know he was shot. I didn't know he was shot at that point. I was just trying to get away at that point. Me not knowing, not paying attention to my other friend, when he ran off, I did not look at him, look his way, nothing. I did not look his way. He ended up getting shot too. He was shot in the back, but he didn't survive that night. We got away. I pulled D'Angelo in the alley. I opened the gate and I laid him right there. I left him there. On my way out, I'm trying to call the police or whatnot to get him here. And while I'm on the phone, he sees me, like he at the end of the alley, and I get to taking off because he get to letting off shots and I get to taking off. I'm running in a zigzag line and I hit a garbage can and all of a sudden I couldn't move my legs no more. I couldn't move nothing. Like the police is still on the phone, but the phone is like ways away from me because I done slid down the alley, hit a garbage can, and now I'm against the somebody garage door, and I'm bleeding like super bad. Like I don't know what I got hit with. I still don't know to this day. I was just laying in the pool of my own blood. But D'Angelo hopped his way all the way to me because I was screaming so loud. Like all I can feel at that point was like a burning, cold feeling. Like I felt my life leaving my body. Like honestly, like I felt everything leaving. I kept telling him like I'm scared. Like I don't know what's going on with me at this point. I'm like, tell my mama this, tell my brother that. And he like, we gonna make it up out of this. You're gonna be all right. It was people everywhere. But only I saw this one dude following us from the stadium all the way to a bus stop that was 3-4 blocks away. He had something on his mind already. He shot my friend, he killed my friend, and nothing was done about that. He still hasn't been caught till this day. Like, but I remember a face. And I could say like 2-3 years ago, I ran into this man, like face to face, 2-3 years ago. And I'm looking at him like, I can't do nothing right now. Nothing. It's police right here. If I tell them who he is, will they believe me? Like, even if I do tell them, when I go back home, I'm gonna hear something from the whole neighborhood because it's not just a cycle with you telling the police stuff. It's a cycle with people coming back for you. Like, soon as they get out of the system, they coming back. Like, I don't care what nobody says. Like every encounter that I've had, they came back. After he just killed somebody, he get out. And he right back in front of me. Like knocking at my door, beating on it, kicking it, all kind of stuff. So it'd be a lot of people who don't want to see the good and see straight bad out the gate. Like they know your story. They know who you are. They don't know who you are now though. They know who you were. You know what I'm saying? I'm a completely different person than what I was back then. Off of every encounter that I had with guns, with people, police, me being in that alley, bleeding out, and waking up in the hospital 3-4 months later, who you gonna talk to? Like who you talking to on that type of level to get this type of pain about you? I'm feeling so much anger, so much hate, so much everything, and it's not going nowhere, but it's just fueling up until that one person say one thing and I explode. It's bad. Like something got to be done within our community.
To echo what Libby said, you know, like people do ask you when you have like these kind of jobs, like what is it like? Like they kind of want to hear the story, and you always know like it'll never like it'll never translate. And for me, like, I've taken some very interesting turns in my career because like, I realized a long time ago that like the biggest part of my job is being there, like literally in people's worst moments. And it is horrible and humbling to watch somebody literally die. Like, it's a thing to say it. It's a different thing when you realize it's not a movie. Like, it is not a thing that you can put words to, like, to watch like the terror in somebody's eyes, like when they know that they're taking their last breath. And I got involved in, education and prevention a long time ago, like because of that. Like I remember, like, I don't remember the first patient I ever had that got shot. I don't remember the first person I ever saw got killed. But I remember one of the reasons I got into like to start doing more around prevention was because like some of the senseless deaths like I saw, like, I remember 3 people getting shot and 2 people died over dish soap. Like, it was a dispute in the duplex over dish soap that turned into a triple shooting. That was a double homicide. Like my most recent one, and I had to explain this to my wife, was because I was on TV and she knew what I was wearing, but you couldn't see my face. But like I was at a community event and a bunch of people got shot, and like I just happened to have been there. And I haven't treated a patient in a while, but I found myself, over this young woman as she was terrified that she was about to die. I thought she was about to die at an incredibly public setting, and just for like being around, for no good reason. And my career's taken a different turn because like it's one thing to like to be a firefighter, and people think like it's a super cool thing, and like you do get the ability to help people, but you do end up compartmentalizing because the people that you help is only because you're there to offer some type of solution to the most chaotic and the most destructive and the most unimaginable things that can occur. And I want you to know that, I can't imagine the amount of terror that you must have had in the alley having those thoughts. And I've seen that look. And I want you to know that there are people whose sole job and sole meaning in life it is to help.
With my job right now, it's definitely, I work with only victims of gun violence, so it is every day of my life at work. And definitely never would have imagined that gun violence would affect me. I grew up in the suburbs, very privileged, very sheltered, I would say. And so it's, when you leave work, like to try and explain to people what you do, so many times I hear, oh, so you work with all those criminals, and like people think I'm scared at work, and I'm like, you don't understand the patients that we're dealing with. You don't understand their situations. For me, it's listening to people's stories. I mean, I hear stories like RJ's all the time. And trying to hopefully bring that back to people who really don't understand. And for me, I listen to those stories anytime someone wants to share it with me on the inpatient side and the patients want to talk about it. I am all ears, and I will spend as much time as they want to share their story with me because it's so important. And I've learned so much from a lot of my victims of gun violence of how much it affects their life. It's not just the injury that we're looking at. It's not just the wound care that we're doing, the teaching that we're doing together. It's, it affects every part of their family member, their friends, their life. And so many patients are so young. So you see like 16, 17, 18-year-olds, and their entire life has changed. So it affects me every day, and I never thought it would.
Thank you all for sharing very incredible stories of pain and frustration. And when we talk about restorative justice, we often try to focus on the healing nature of coming together and how do we right the wrongs and how do we set things right and how do we look at harm repair. And I know that there is this pain in you, but it has formulated into, I have to do something, or I have to continue to do something to move forward, to try to help others, to try to prevent, to try to help people heal, to try to move forward. And so I think with the last prompt that I want to talk about, or I want you to share, is try to share an experience that you've had or a story where you thought, this is the story. This is one of the sort of the keys to moving towards healing, to moving towards harm repair. Share a story around that. Something that you're doing, something that you saw somebody else doing, where we can have that pathway to reducing or eliminating gun violence.
For me, you have two choices in life. You can either be what you're surrounded by in your environment, or you can be the complete opposite. And I think too often we get caught up in being the things that we see or we know or we hear, whether it's our genders, stereotypes, the races, the household, the community, whatever it is. We get too caught up in the things that we're surrounded by because it's easier to blame where we come from to make us who we are, when in actuality, you determine who you are. The only real change comes from inside. You can say you want this, you can say you're gonna do that, but until you actually put the plans into motion and start doing something, it's never gonna change.
For me, I think one of the moments where I have thought, okay, we're on to something here, has been some of the research that Colleen and Becca and I are involved in. It involves patient interviews. And so we have a group of, started as like research assistants and some of us, and then we opened it up to medical students. And we've now been doing this different kind of survey-based studies, particularly around firearm survivors, for the last few years. And the consistent message from the students that come back from those experiences, I mean, you think about your typical medical students, often from kind of upper middle class or upper class backgrounds. Probably the majority of them are not having a lot of kind of exposure in their childhood or upbringing to firearm violence. And the thing that they consistently come back and say is, that has been the most valuable experience of my first 3 years of medical school. Like, biology, pharmacology, all of that is great, but the ability to sit down and ask questions of a patient, to understand their story, and to not just hear about their injuries, but you know, one of the initial studies we did was really just a needs assessment. Like, okay, you've been shot, like, what do you need when you leave the hospital? Because we all make assumptions about, you know, what our patients need, and really giving patients the opportunity to say it in their own words. And one of the studies that we're doing right now looks at kind of knowledge around the Crime Victims Compensation Program, as well as what are your financial barriers to getting better, right? Like, we all talk about, when you look up, you know, either in the medical literature or you Google like the cost of firearm injury, it's all about healthcare costs. It's like, what is Medicare or Medicaid being billed? There really isn't any information about like, what's the cost of the patient, right? Like, what is somebody who is coming home after being shot and is injured and can't return to work, like their rent, their transportation, their food costs, like how many dependents they have, what does that look like? And the students come back and they say, I learned so much in that experience. And I think for me, part of what I see as being my contribution is trying to have more and more physicians entering the workforce, and nurse practitioners and nurses and care providers as a whole, who, while they the pipeline is great. The pipeline's going to take time to have more and more people going into healthcare who come from those backgrounds. But in the meantime, can we at least have more providers who are asking the questions and are aware of kind of what their biases are? And hopefully that then triggers people to take the time to ask the questions and listen to the stories, and then be able to use that to take better care of patients, whether it's the one in front of them or the next 1,000 that they're going to interact with. And so I hope that we are able to continue to provide those opportunities and to be able to build a workforce that is better able to care for the people who we see on the day-to-day.
To be able to, what I've learned is, especially in like the school settings, is that we don't know what that kid or that young man or young woman is going through while they're at school. And what we learn from our curriculum that we give in the schools is that's only their safe haven. And at that school, at that moment when they leave, none of us knows what they're subjected to when they have to go home. What problems, and this is like, I never knew this. I just felt when you go home, that was your safe haven. And to some, to a lot of the kids that is not, dealing with abuse in the homes, not having food. Some of the kids are homeless in these high schools. So it's being able to be a voice, and not only a voice, a tool or an asset for them. So when they run into them problems, it's almost like I continuously ask myself, how could I do better at being able to help you or walk you through this course? And I don't want to be the person that just hands you off or a warm handoff to, let me give a warm handoff to Libby or a warm handoff to you. I want to walk the whole process with you because I want to see what it looks like. And I don't want you to feel that this is only going to be our only engagement. And it's kind of helping me, and it helped me become better on how I look at people, you know. And yeah, they could come to school in the most expensive clothing. Doesn't mean that when they go home that everything's good. And I've learned that, you know, they just want a safe house and a place, you know, where, like I said, where they can like decompress.
I think having the immediate care, you don't know what to do right away. And someone to guide you, literally take you by the hand, step by step. Where do I go that's safe? Where do I bring my children? How am I going to live? Where am I going to get money? Your basic human needs. I also think that the aftercare, I think of something my dad told me a long time ago is learn what you don't want in your life so you understand what you need. And don't look back unless you haven't learned the lesson the first time. We are not taught how to heal. We're taught how to eat and walk and this and that, and schooling. But we aren't really taught how to heal and how to deal with trauma. We don't even know that we're in a traumatic situation. We're living in that moment. And literally you have to go through the person's eyes and find their soul, walk that journey with them inside them to help them release it because they don't know how to heal. And first thing you need to do is recognize it yourself. The second thing is you need to deprogram, and with what's going on in our youth and our adults, we don't know how to talk. We talk at each other and not with each other, and there's a big difference. That human side is missing how to communicate with each other. We're too used to the gunshots. Like you were saying, you get used to it. You get used to hearing about it. You get used to seeing it. but that person never gets through it. So we end up with people with anxiety and PTSD and depression and learning how to live. We don't have enough therapists in trauma. That's a huge area that we need from little and up. Again, it's deprogramming because we've gotten used to functioning on dysfunction. And that's all I can think of right now. There you go.
For me, okay, I want to say I was about 14. I joined a street organization, and you would think it's all violence and, you know, the bad stuff you hear, but it's actually community. It's a lot of community stuff involved in that as well, and that's how I got my start in the community field, far as, you know, giving back and building these relationships. It actually came from when I joined the street organization. And I got a friend now, I want to shout him out, Hajimu Butler, seeing his vision with, which started was just a one block party. You know what I mean? Now it's grown to a block party over a stretch of maybe 4 or 5 blocks sometimes, and it got a huge turnout. Seeing that, you know what I mean? Like, I've known him years. I've known him when he first started. I was attending him when they first started. To see where it's at now, all the people that's been brought in, the organizations, the resources, yeah, it's just, it's motivation for me. It's like, okay, this is it. This is what I should be doing, because I see how it can turn out. I see how many people can be affected, you know. Yeah.
I think the one time in my life that I was inspired, that has changed my trajectory and everything that I do from here on out, is I listened to Reggie Moore and David Milia, who's one of our trauma surgeons, and Reggie Moore brought 414 Life to the community here. And Terry Daroon Castini, who's my partner in crime at the college, we built the Trauma Quality of Life clinic together. So in 2018, the three of them, I remember sitting in this auditorium at the medical college, and they were talking about bringing this connection between this 414 Life program and the medical college. And I had never heard about hospital-based violence interruption, even community violence interrupter programs. I didn't know they existed. And I sat there listening to, you know, what they were going to do and how we were going to collaborate. And I thought to myself that this can change our world. This will change our world. And how do I get involved? And I want to be part of it, because there has been, like I said, body after body after body in the beds, and, you know, how can we do better? And it clicked for me then that that was going to change our world, at least at the Medical College and Freighter Hospital, and then hopefully for our patients and the people that we come in contact with, because it is an amazing privilege and a piece of humanity that we get to experience. People like RJ and you know, like, these are my people right here, and I think we all have that piece that we can contribute to the world. And so I think that was the one thing that changed my trajectory in my career, because I don't know that I would be here without that connection of 414 Life.
I like to think of myself as a protector. I protect who I love, protect what I love. And this particular day, I was protecting my mama and my siblings. It was a guy in the neighborhood. I always knew him. In this particular day, he decided to pull a gun on my little brother. I eventually talked the man down to put the gun down, and he actually put the gun down. Unfortunately, his friend shot me. The person he was with shot me when he saw his friend getting beat up. That's a problem for me because if we gonna take a different alternative, not saying it gotta be all violence, you know what I'm saying? It don't have to be violence. We can literally talk it out. We got so many options to like squash altercations or, you know what I'm saying, debates within our community. But like I see people walk around every day with firearms for no apparent reason. It's just in your pocket, it's in your arm, like in your hand, like you ain't doing nothing but bringing fear in the community and making people not want to be around our type of, you know what I'm saying, stereotypes, like that type of stuff. Like, I don't feel like people really take the initiative to help one another. You see this person arguing with this person, it's about some petty stuff. One thing you can say to them may change their whole mind about what's going on in front of them. I've done it multiple times. Like, I did my 2 cents, put my 2 cents in somebody else's business to make them change their perspective on whatever's at hand, go a long way. I done prevented a lot of gun violence in my life, and I'm looking to prevent more. What we doing in this program is the best thing we could do for the community and try to bring everybody to it. Yeah, it's a nice experience.
So I guess mine would be actually what brought me here today. I've only known Mary Trujano, formerly Judge Trujano, for a few years here. And I'll be honest, I think it was actually sparked by when I met you, and I didn't even remember meeting you, right? I remember years and years and years ago when I started thinking really actively about like the different types of prevention, things we can do for prevention in the city. One of the big criticisms I had was like, you know, especially around like the discussion around violence, like there was no ground game. The reality is like, you know, I realized a while ago that people change behaviors when they trust the person that's giving them the advice. And it is next to impossible to trust a stranger to ever take their advice, because like that's not what we teach our kids to do. We teach them to not take advice from strangers. So a lot of our prevention models don't work if we don't have trust first. So like remembering, not remembering you, going, oh, there's a violence reduction ground game. Because I do know what happened across the street. I remember that story very vividly. And like, yeah, these cats got a ground game now. Like, this might work. And then when VR Fast was organized, and like, not that I was trying to play any leadership role at all, but like I found myself, you know, talking and like offering a definition of the way that this could work for all the partner agencies, because I had worked with law enforcement, with, you know, primary and secondary providers, with K-12 educators, with researchers, and a little bit with the judiciary. And I really saw the potential when a lot of our recurring discussions about major events in the city became, how do we stop the retaliation? And probably the most amazing thing about VR Fast that I tried to explain to the mayor's office is like, it's not the meeting. It was a tool to enable all the people who had the respective space in their professional lives to do the thing, and then get all those people around to have the connection, and then the next discussion to do the next thing. And those were turning into positions and funding and cooperative efforts, and to know that there are people who want to do the work, and then there's people from different fields who have not previously worked together who are enabling that work to happen. And then to be in a position to be able to call the chief judge and be like, hey, what about this? Have you ever thought about that? Let's talk more about these treatment courts. Let's talk more about, like, you know, connecting you with a clinician so that you can offer the basic needs for people who are on deferred agreements who need hypertension medication or diabetic medication or an injectable for their schizophrenia so that they don't do all the things. Like, so like connecting all those dots like became like the thing where, and people were listening. Like that was the awesome part to, you know, to get judges to go, I never knew that. Yeah, like let's get that going. Like that's truly an awesome thing. So, so yeah, like it takes all the different levels of stakeholders to get that done. And it was, when VR Fast became a thing, it was really, really exciting to see like those different stakeholders getting together, taking the time out of their day, having those conversations, and then like seeing them actually do the thing afterwards was medium level amazing. So.
When I think about like action items and things being done right now, it's the 4-1 for Life team. I see the work that they do every day. And I think it takes us then listening and learning from them of how to take care of our patients from a holistic standpoint, which is then what I think we're doing in our clinic every day and hopefully in our practice every day. But I think it, you know, kind of like what Colleen mentioned, and it starts with the 4-1 for Life team, and they are doing that work like day in, day out to help in that prevention of retaliation, keep patients safe, and also just address every one of their needs. We know you guys do so much more than just safety and retaliation. And then having that connection with that team on our hospital standpoint to then listen and learn and care, you know, take that forward and how we take care of our patients every day. That's the action being done.
Thank you, each of you, for sharing, for creating in this circle an opportunity to share some of our pain, but we all benefit from human connection that we have when we are in circle together and sharing, you know, our deepest connections, our deepest issues. And so thank you for all for doing that here today. There's so many benefits of sitting in circle together and trying to move forward in a healing fashion. Thank you.